Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on the Divine Messages podcast. My name is Karina, and I am a psychic medium out of Calgary, Alberta. Today, I have with me a very special guest that will be sharing her personal spiritual journey with all of us. So please help me welcome Pamela to the podcast. Pamela, how are you?
Hi, Karina. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just so glad that you joined me today because I think it's important to share with everybody how a spiritual awakening happens, and sharing your personal story about your journey, I think is really important for everyone to understand how this all happens.
Thank you very much. I'm honored that you actually asked me to be on here with you today.
Well, I'm glad you are. So, I wanted to share with everybody how we actually met because I think that our story is even unique. And I think that everything is divinely timed. So, I would say, like, what was it, about 3 years ago that we went
hmm
to? Was it three?
Yeah,
The worst
3 years
memory.
ago, just over 3 years ago, we met at Anejo right before we went to Teresa Caputo.
Yes, we did meet 3 years ago. We went downtown Calgary and we had dinner at a restaurant. And there were some of the students, like some of my Reiki students, and we all decided to go see Teresa Caputo in person. And I thought, okay, this is someone that I look up to. I think she's incredible. And we went to see her show live. And you and I just ended up really kind of hitting it off at dinner. And then we obviously went to the show. And I remember saying to our mutual friend that I just really liked your energy. You just seemed so down to earth and wonderful and pure and full of love. You carry such a beautiful light around you. And I just was very drawn to you and I almost knew you. And now we'll explain that a little bit later. But I feel like it's so important to share. Like sometimes when you meet somebody and you feel really drawn to them or you feel very comfortable with them, that goes back to past lives. And
hmm
again, we'll explain some of that a bit later. So after we went to Teresa Caputo and we added each other on Facebook, I feel like, we just saw each other on there and that was it. And then you reached out for a reading and you said, I think I'd like to set up a reading with you. I said, anytime. And then I just hadn't heard from you. And I thought, okay, well, everything happens in divine timing. And then last year, you actually did reach out to me again and you said, I'm ready for a reading. I need one now. And we booked it. It was pretty fast, I think, because I had an opening.
Yes, it
And
was.
I think it was like a couple days later or so, right?
Yes, I asked you if you could do something pretty much as soon as possible.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, okay, I'll take you. This has to be important. And so we did. We connected over,
A
was it phone?
FaceTime?
It was FaceTime.
Yes.
Okay. So we did a FaceTime call. And that's when I discovered that you had lost your very best friend.
Yes.
And I remember saying to you, like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that this had happened. And today, I think it's important that you share part of your reading so that you can explain where it led you after that, if that's all right.
Yes, of course.
So, your friend, your best friend, had actually come through in our session. And, I always say that I do delete everybody's reading because it's just too much information for me to retain. But I think when he came through, he was so bold and he needed you to actually be there that day because he wanted to connect with you. And you did say something to me the other day about how you had had a conversation with him a couple days prior to his passing. And I think that's really important to share.
Yes, we actually had a conversation a few days before he passed, and I was telling him how I wanted to reach out to you for a mediumship session just to connect with somebody else. And he was very supportive. We were talking about it. We were talking about you. I was explaining how I met you a couple of years prior to me reaching out to you. And he was a very supportive friend who said, yes, like you should message Karina. That's amazing. You should get that session and get the closure that you're looking for. And funny enough, he said to me, Pamela, if I passed, would you call a medium and would you set up a session with somebody so that you could talk to me again? And I thought he was kind of joking and I laughed it off a little bit and said, well, are you planning on dying soon? And he said, no, no, no. And I said, well, of course I would message a medium and I would connect with you. And then I said, well, would you connect with a medium as well if I passed? Would you try and find me? And he said, well, I would go bankrupt because I would be calling that medium every day and trying to get a session with you just so that I could connect with you, so that it wasn't like we're actually separated and that our friendship is over. And so that's when he did pass, I had this really strong pull towards you, and I started seeing your icon pop up on my messenger. I saw your Facebook, all of your posts were popping up on my page all of a sudden, out of nowhere. And so I knew I need to message Karina. This is important. And I felt like if I didn't connect with you, that I would almost be haunted in my own thoughts, that I promised something and I didn't come through with my promise. And then that's when I finally reached out to you and I asked you for a session.
Right. That conversation happened and then he passed 2 days later, correct?
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Like it's almost like, and I always believe too, that their soul knows when they're going to pass. We all have that deep knowing on a subconscious
Exactly.
level, right? And he knew, and he actually said that. And it was like his way of saying, look, I will be there and you need to connect with me. And that's
Mhm.
where we ended up, right? In a nice
Yes.
reading.
And it was almost like it was his way of saying, I will be leaving, and getting that reassurance from me saying that I would be reaching out to somebody, that it isn't over yet.
It's amazing how it actually all works. And I'm so glad that you did come and do that session because you needed it. Even though it was a very short time after he passed, he wanted you to be there that day because everything
Mhm.
is divinely timed. That session happened. I happened to have an opening and it was just supposed to happen that way. And you needed to hear from him that day.
Exactly. And it was such a beautiful session. I got exactly what I was looking for from you, and the messages that you gave me and the closure that it gave me. And actually, you said a few things that were going to happen, such as his funeral, and you saw that I would be speaking at the funeral. You saw that that was coming up soon, and that I was actually getting a lot of things prepared for the funeral. And I actually reached out to you a little bit after the funeral too, because I wanted kind of just like an overlap of what our first session was like, and to see if I did things properly, and to get that yes, and that it was okay. And I think that without both of those sessions, I think I would be lost right now still. And everyone was telling me, like, what do you mean? You already had one session, like that's enough. Why are you going again? And I
Right.
just felt like I needed to reach out a second time to you. And you just completely flipped the situation around and gave me that reassurance and the closure to put my heart at ease.
I love that. I believe that he actually wanted you to come 2 weeks after the first session, which is really unusual. Not many people do that. But I think for you, you had to have that because you needed to know that he was very much alive in a different realm. And something that was popping into my head just now as we were speaking was about the funeral. I actually
Mhm.
remember him saying something along the lines of you were deciding between pants or a skirt and he told you to wear the skirt.
Yes.
Is that true? That's true, right?
That is true. He always liked me wearing a black skirt. We went to a couple Christmas parties together, and he really liked it when I would wear the black skirt dress. And
Oh,
for the funeral, his mother asked me if I could speak at his funeral. And I've
mhm.
never done something like that before. And I was extremely nervous. And I was thinking, I wanted to wear the skirt because I knew that that's something that he would like, but I wanted to be even more respectful. And I thought, I should probably wear dress pants, black dress pants, and be very, very formal for this funeral and for his celebration of life. And I remember I was trying on all these outfits. And then finally, last minute, I said, you know what? No, I am going to wear the black dress. And I think he would like that. And that is what he would want me to wear today. And I wore it.
Oh.
And yeah, that's exactly what you brought up right away. You said you actually wore the dress.
Yeah. He knew, right? They see
Yeah.
everything. And I think it's so incredible what they can do from the other side because they're all
Mm-hmm.
right there. People think that they're gone and they really aren't gone. They are just very much alive in a different way, in another realm.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they come forward and validate that for someone who's,
Yeah.
still living, because it's important that we have that closure and we know that their physical presence is gone. And that's the part we miss so much. But if everyone
Yeah.
could just realize that they really do walk beside us and guide us from the other side, that's an
Hmm.
incredible gift.
And they give us so many little hints and little things that they do that we just don't notice because we're not looking for it. And we're so lost in our own thought and our everyday process. You reminded me so much. He is there. He's doing all these things to try and connect with you, but you're not taking the time to actually receive these little messages.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually, in our second session, you went throughout pretty much my whole house and you were describing things that nobody else would have known. And even things that I remember I needed to get up from, and I had to unplug the computer and bring you upstairs because I needed to see what you were talking about. And it was things that I wouldn't even think of that they were in my house or around or what you were talking about. And they were just these really sentimental little knickknacks that you just were able to describe. It was actually quite beautiful.
Yeah, because I've never been to your house, not yet.
No.
And that's sometimes what they'll do is they'll do a full walk around of someone's house to prove that they are, in fact, there with you. And
Mm-hmm.
that I think is just amazing. That's my favorite part about a reading, because I think people really want those really small details to have that proof and validation.
Yes.
So after we did that second session, I think it was a short time after as well that you reached out to me on Facebook and you said, "Hey, I'm having all of these thoughts and feelings and stuff, and I kind of need some help with it." And I'll let you explain that because I think that's also part of your journey, the most important part of your journey.
Yes. So it all ties back into before Teresa Caputo. One of my girlfriends was actually doing a Reiki class through you. And she knew that I am an empath. I'm spiritual. I believe in a lot. And I've been through quite a bit when I was younger. And she always would tell me, come do these classes with me, come meet Karina. And for some reason, I just couldn't reach out. I got a little nervous. I had my firstborn, I had my daughter, and I kind of got a little bit freaked out and I didn't know what exactly all of this looks like. And so then we met at Teresa Caputo. I absolutely adored you. I felt so drawn to you and I always wanted to reach out. And I actually went through our old conversations and there was a couple times that I did reach out and you responded right away. And then I kind of disappeared again. And it wasn't until I lost my friend and I finally said, you know what? I've always meant to do this. What's the worst that can happen? Like, I'm just going to message Karina and ask her a few questions and we'll see where this goes.
Uh-huh.
And so I actually reached out to you and I said, when I was little, I could see people. And then it slowly went away. And then as I got older, I could hear things. And I remember always putting my ear to the heat vent and I could hear these conversations and I would run downstairs to go see who was in the room and nobody was there. And when I was out in public, I could hear things and like they were actually like I could hear them out loud. And then as I've gotten older, I just thought, I don't know, I was little, maybe I was imagining things. It was all my imagination. And now I get messages and conversations that happen in my head. And I've always thought that I'm just a little odd and I talk to myself all the time because we all talk to ourselves.
Of course we do.
But then
Yeah.
exactly. And I started to realize that no, these conversations that I'm having, they aren't conversations that I'm starting. They're a conversation that something else is starting in my head and I'm continuing this conversation. It's all in my voice,
Yes.
but it's just a different conversation. And so I reached out to you and I said, like, is this normal? Like, what is this? And then
Yeah,
that's
I
where it all
remember.
started.
Well, you asked me, am I crazy? And I said, okay, look, hold on a second. If you're crazy, I'm crazy, right? Remember?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so this is a thing. Like, this is normal. I said, look, that's how I hear messages from the other side. It's in my own voice, but it's not my thought.
Mhm.
That's important.
And
And
that's
then,
exactly what it is.
so when I said to you, look, you're not crazy. This is not something that you should be afraid of or worried about. You should embrace this. This is who you are.
Hmm.
Remember me saying that to you? Like, this is who you are. You'll
I do.
understand someday. And
Yeah.
here we are today. And this is still just the beginning. You're just starting
Exactly.
to open up, right?
And after you explained everything, I said, you know what, Karina, I think I'm ready to take this next step. I want to open this up and learn and see where this path and journey would take me. And that's when I signed up for your mediumship classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I even signed up for a card reading class just to learn how to just deal with the cards and what messages they give and how to bless my cards so that they're personally mine and I can work with them. And then now I've actually reached out and said that I think I'm ready and I want to take a Reiki course. And you said yes, and I'm very excited. But
Yes.
yeah, all from
And
one conversation.
exactly. And I said to you just the other day, because you're actually coming to do Reiki next weekend. And I said to you, your life is going to change forever because you're finally opening up to who you truly are and what you're meant to do. And I know that, over the last year or so, you've mentioned how you're nervous and you think, well, what if I can't do this? And am I good enough to do this? And am I supposed to be doing this? And I always say to you, look, that's your ego fears that keep coming in and trying to veer you off your path. And it happens to all of us. It happened to me. It's happened to all of the students that I've taught. Your fears and egos will come in and tell you that who do you think you are? This is not real. You can't do this. You're not good enough. You're going to hear all of this like negative chatter in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I always say, like the good angel, the bad angel, right? Like talking to you. And when you're supposed to do this, you have to push past those fears and go with that full intention of wanting to help other people. And as soon as you do that, your spirit guides will come in and say, okay, she's ready. She's told us she's ready. Let's go. And that's why everything has been happening the way it should. And even though, those times where you did reach out and say, I want a reading, and then you disappeared, it wasn't that you just didn't want to do this. You just weren't ready at that time. And then with your
Mm-hmm.
friend passing, it was like a doorway opened up, and it was like as if everything just happened so fast and in the right timing. This is what you were supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm
It
so
was like that
excited.
little push.
It was a huge push, actually. It was more like a shove, Pamela. Like they were like, okay, look, she's put this off for long enough and it's time to get going and start doing this. And my Reiki master told me 7.5, almost 8 years ago, Karina, you're here right now. You're going here. And he pointed up really high and he said, and you don't even know it yet. And I thought, what the heck does that mean? Like, I had no idea what he meant. I knew I was meant to help people. I always had that within me, but I never understood what it all entailed. Like, I really never thought I was going to be doing Reiki sessions or mediumship. I never in a million years would have thought I would be doing mediumship ever. And it all makes sense now. And so I'm saying the same to you. I've said it to you before. You will someday understand all of this. It'll all make sense. And you'll look back and go, oh my goodness, it did all happen as it should have.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe that.
So after you taking all of these classes and stuff, you also reached out to me and said, I'd really like to know some stuff about my past lives. And I said to you, why don't you go have a reading with my friend in Maui? She's been doing this for over 40 years. She's incredible. And you said, yeah, I think I'm going to go have a session with her. And then you ended up telling me about your session. And I was even blown away because it does make sense. All of it just came together and it does explain our connection and why we were so drawn towards each other.
Exactly. Yes. And the session that I had with her was incredible. She took me through the whole Akashic records and was explaining things. She told me where I first started, my first reincarnation was, and told me where I moved up. And at one point, she was telling me that I have been a healer in past lives and I was a
Shocking.
herbalist. Yes. And she was telling me that it makes sense that I am your student and that I am doing what I'm doing now. And actually, she told me that I've started a little bit earlier than what she would have seen for me. And at one point, I told her, I said, for some reason, I have always been so drawn to Karina, and I always like messaging her and talking to her, and her opinion and her guidance. Like, I take very big value to it. And I really look up to Karina, and I said, I just don't understand this crazy, like, bond that I feel towards her. And she stopped for a second and she said, you know what? It's actually quite beautiful how all of this works, because you and Karina have actually spent lives together in your past lives. She
Mm-hmm.
told me that we connected about 14 lives ago. We were sisters on a river in India 14 lives ago.
Mm-hmm.
We studied Northern Lives together. We did spiritual work together for 4 lives. We were in a high priestess type of family. And she said, you know, that is probably exactly why you're feeling this crazy bond and being so drawn to Karina, because you were sisters and you were close and you did work together in healing. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that that was just absolutely fascinating. It was crazy. I would have never even thought that that is something that is even possible, really.
And that's why I think when you are drawn to someone and you feel like you know them on such a deep level, it has to do with past lives. You've been together in other lifetimes. So sometimes you'll meet somebody and you just instantly, like us, loved each other from the second we met. But then there's other times when you meet somebody and you just repel from them and you can't explain it. You don't even know them, but there's
Mm-hmm.
something about their energy that rubs you the wrong way. And that is also a past life connection. So perhaps you guys, did something to each other in another lifetime that you never forgave, or it's just, to me, even trying to wrap my head around all of this, even as a medium, is still so fascinating because there's,
Yes.
even with us, there was just that instant comfort. And then we just have gotten so close over this last year where I just feel like I do know you so well. And, for me, it's very difficult to let people in. And I have a lot of students and I have a lot of clients, and my life is chaotic. But
Mm-hmm.
when I do let somebody in, it's because I really do feel a sense of comfort. And that's kind of what happened to us. It was just instantaneously, it instantly
Exactly. And
happened.
just like a very big trust. I think that would be the best way that I can describe you too, is I really trust. I have a hard time letting people in. I have a very sensitive heart. And
Same.
with you, I instantly felt the trust and just, like you said, very comfortable. I feel like I could tell you absolutely anything and
Without
there
being
is no
judged
judgment.
ever.
Exactly.
Same.
Yeah.
I do. I feel the same. And I always find that it's so important that when you can actually truly be yourself with someone, that's when you know that they're meant to be in your life.
Yes.
Right. And I think over the course of the year and these classes that you've been doing and stuff, I'm really so grateful to be a part of this journey, to watch you open up and watch you go through a very similar experience that I did when I had my spiritual awakening. And I think you're just on the tip of the iceberg. Like, it's going to happen. It already has happened quite quickly. But once you do your Reiki next week, you're going to understand what I mean. And I can't wait to see it happen and unfold, because it is going to be something very special. And because of our bond, I think that it's even more exciting for me to be a part of and watch.
100%.
So back a couple months ago, I think, even, or maybe a month ago, I'm horrible with time frame, but we did a mediumship class. And I remember asking the students, like, are you guys okay if we call in my father that's passed? And all of you said, absolutely. Yes, I feel like we're supposed to. And I wasn't necessarily nervous about it. I was more, I guess, excited. I wanted to have that connection. I wanted to hear from him. And I find for myself as a medium, it's very difficult for me to open up my mind to someone that I'm close to that's passed, or I guess it's just that ego part, right? Like, I know too much. How am I supposed to hear the messages? And I thought, what an incredible thing to do with all of these beautiful students. Let them do the channeling and let's see what comes up. And you were a part of that. And I wanted to share that with everyone today, how I felt during that session that we did.
Yes, it was. I personally think it was a beautiful session. I think we were able to give you messages and tell you things that I think you really needed to hear. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for us, it was such an honor for our teacher to have that much trust in us and believe in us so much that we would be able to bring your father in and try to get messages for you and see what you needed out of it. And you were nervous, and I think all of us were nervous. We were all
Probably,
very
yeah.
shaky before, and the pressure was on, but it was such a beautiful session. And the girls were giving you things, we were seeing things from when you were younger, and
Yeah.
we were saying a lot of memories and things that happened when you did go visit your father before he passed. And I think you got the validation, and you also gave us the validation that he was there. And actually, one of the really cool things you asked us to do was the class before you asked us to bring him in for you, and you asked us to sit on it and see if we could try and get his nickname that he would give you, that he called you when you were younger, and
Yep.
actually really forever. And I remember I went and I got a Reiki session. It was my first Reiki session. And T and I were talking about just bringing the class that's coming up and being a part of bringing your father in. And I kept telling her, I feel very comfortable with Karina. When I try to do readings for the other students, I get nervous. But when I do it with you, I just feel so comfortable. And I know that if I'm completely off on something, you will tell me. You're honest. You don't
Yeah.
you try to make me feel better and say, no, yeah, that's close. You always are very honest and to the point. And
Mm-hmm.
I was telling her, I've tried already. And there's a certain message that I keep getting, and it's on the tip of my tongue. And I can feel Karina's father telling me, like, it's right there. Come on, like, you're almost there. And we were talking about it a little bit. And then for some weird reason, a couple days later, we both reached out, and T said, I think a name is coming to me. Some nickname is coming to me. And I said, actually, me as well. Let's just say them and see kind of if we're close. So
Mm-hmm.
I guessed that the name was Kiki. And I said, I can't stop hearing Kiki. And
Mm-hmm.
T said, I keep hearing Gigi. And I said, that's so crazy. Like, we're very, very close to what we're both hearing. And I said, I wonder which one is right, or if it's even like a mix of both, like a key G or a G key.
Right.
And I was like, I think we need to tell Karina. And so I messaged you right away and I said, hey, Karina, does the nickname Kiki mean anything to you? And you said, Pamela, you're really close. Ask again and see what you get. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, what does Gigi mean to you? Because actually T was the one who said that. And I said, you might as well find out, eliminate everything right away. And you were floored. You said that's actually exactly what it was. And I can't believe that you girls got that. And that's incredible. And so I messaged
Yes.
to you right away and I said, oh my goodness, you nailed it. That was exactly what it was. And I think you reached out to her after and you guys had a
Instantly.
conversation.
Right away, I
Yes.
did. And she actually sent me a screenshot of her little notepad that she had written it down on and circled it. And
Yes.
I said to her, so T is also a Reiki master, and she's the one who started this podcast with me last year. And I remember saying to her the same messages I'm giving you today about her spiritual awakening and journey. If she just lets go and trusts, she will see. And I reached out and said, oh my God, look, nobody knows that. Nobody, I've never even told anyone except my husband that this is what my dad called me my entire life was Gigi. And I said to her, like, if you don't start trusting now after this, like, I don't know what to do with you because this is incredible. Like, you were so bang on. And that was just a beautiful thing for her to get. And since then, my father has bugged her quite a bit. And she even said the same thing. Karina, I'm honored that he's chosen to come to me. I said, look, they choose the person they feel will deliver the message. And I said, I feel like he is going to come to you because you have opened up and you and I have had this relationship going for so long that I think he trusts you to deliver the messages to me. And some of the stuff she said, I'm like, uh-huh, yep, that's my dad, and she'll message all the time and say, hey, I think your dad's been hanging around me today. I'm like, okay, what does he have to say? And it's been amazing for me. And
That's
you've also
beautiful.
you've also come to me and said, hey, I feel this and I feel that, and you've delivered these beautiful messages, and I'm so grateful for that, because I know that, especially from the other side, I can't hear him the way I would like to hear him, like I can hear for everybody else. And that's why I think he's choosing to go through you and through T and a couple other people. And for that, I mean, I'm so grateful. I just love the fact that he's willing to do that with you guys, and that you guys
Exactly. And
trust the
I'm,
messages.
yes. And even just, I think all of us are so grateful that you gave us that opportunity to be able to do something like that. And especially with you being our teacher and giving you those messages,
And,
it's incredible.
and you want to know why I did that?
Why?
You want to know really why? Because I believe in all of you so much. I believe that you all have this capability to do it. And I'm a hard teacher. I push and I push and I force you out of your comfort zones. And I do that for a reason, because I believe in you guys that much. And I always say, if you're guided to a class, you're supposed to be there with me. Your spirit guides would not put you on that journey if it wasn't meant for you.
I believe it.
It's the truth. And that's why I believe when you come next weekend for the Reiki class, you're going to open up even further. And all of this is going to make so much sense to you someday. And I cannot wait to watch, even a year from now, to see where you're at and what you're doing. And it's going to be one of those conversations of, oh my God, I knew this was supposed to happen.
Yeah. And I can't wait to tell you all of these changes, because even now, just the smallest little like bursts of light that I get and these little messages that come in just randomly sometimes, you're the first person I want to tell, because it's just so crazy. Like that's just what it is. It's crazy. It's wild how much you can actually receive and notice when you are paying attention and just letting it happen naturally. And I think it's such a hard thing to do, is to let it come naturally. And I always get into my head and like, why am I not getting this? Why is this not happening? Why do I not see it the way that I want to see it, or hear it the way that I want to hear it? And the times that I don't try, those are the times that I've had the craziest
Yes.
moments.
And have even delivered amazing messages to me when you've been practicing. And the times that you do try, you get in your head and then you worry about it. And the times that you let go and you go, Karina, I'm just going to see what I get. And you start jotting things down, and then you message me and I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly right. I know
Yeah.
you're fully capable of doing this. And that's why we're together and we're on this journey, and I'm watching things unfold for you, because this is who you're supposed to be. And when you
Yes.
let go and you trust, it will happen so easily and effortlessly. It's all about just letting go and really embracing who you are without fighting against, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Am I good enough or not? Right.
Yes.
So even in, let's say, 6 months or even a year, I think we should do another follow-up episode to let everyone know what's happened, because it's going to be big. And I feel like you just need to trust the process, allow it to happen, and then we'll share again. How do you feel about that?
Exactly. I think that would be incredible. I
Okay,
would
then
be
that's what
honored
we
to do
do.
that.
Then that's what we do, because I feel like it'll be important for everybody to hear the progress and the amazing things that are going to happen to you. I can't wait to share that someday again.
And it's so exciting too, even from just the little notes. I have everything, I keep track of everything since I've started. And just watching the progress in such a short time
Mm-hmm.
is beautiful. Like there's actually been quite a bit. And I didn't realize that until I started looking back.
I'm so glad that you're actually journaling it, because I think it's going to be one of those things that one day you're going to look back and go, wow, look how everything happened, all the synchronicities that lined up. And there are no such things as a coincidence at all. So everything does happen for a reason and as it should. And having that all documented, it'll be amazing for you to look back and be so proud of yourself for where you end up going.
Yes, and just see how it just aligned on its own. And this was the path and the journey that it was supposed to happen in this way.
Okay, so let's make this deal. The minute that you feel that you're ready to share again, we will do another episode and explain all of the amazing things that happened to you. Deal?
I think that is a lovely idea. I would love that.
Okay, that's what we will do. So I want to leave you all with this today. We all have the capability to tap into our spiritual abilities. It just takes a little bit of practice. And yes, some of us are meant to do this as our life's purpose, just as a doctor or lawyer is destined to be. Everything happens in divine timing, and if you are meant to open up and be a light worker, it will happen. If you tell the universe that you are ready to help others and it comes from a place of true love, they will do everything to help you open up that doorway to your life's purpose. They will place the right people on your path to help you get to where you need to be. It all comes down to trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your abilities, and trust in the universe. And these simple words I love to live by. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Thank you all so much for joining us today on the Divine Messages podcast. And Pamela, thank you so much for sharing your personal spiritual journey with all of us today.
Karina, thank you so much for having me today.
I'm just so grateful you agreed to be here with me and share this, because I think it was important for everybody to understand that is also on a spiritual path.
And I just feel so blessed that you let me share my story and asked me to be on the podcast with you today. So thanks again.
And thank you. If you would like to book a reading with me, I can be reached at www.divinemessages.ca or on social media at Divine Messages on Facebook or the Divine Messages podcast, as well as on Instagram at Divine Messages 333 or at the Divine Messages podcast. Please bear in mind that the perspectives and opinions represented in this podcast are based solely on the Divine Messages interpretations. We can in no way be held responsible for the actions of our followers.